and more desensitized to the value of human life. Last year, a tourist was found dead at Sossusvlei. A lot of speculation surrounded his death. I spoke to FENATA chairperson Velile Nashandi about this case.
So how this unfortunate incident came to my attention was that I was approached by one of my colleagues in the tourism sector, the owner of Furaha Tours and Safaris, reached out and notified me that one of his clients had simply gone missing. They had been up on a hike in the Sossusvlei area, climbing up those magnificent, lovely dunes of ours. And he seemingly didn't pitch up at the designated meeting point with the rest of the group. Now, without getting into too many of the nitty-gritty details, so that's what transpired. The operating company, Furaha Tours and Safaris, engaged with the Ministry of Environment and Tourism on the ground, engaged with a private lodge in the area to try and see how collective efforts could assist in tracing the whereabouts of this guest, right? So on the morning of the 12th, so I was notified of his missing state on the morning of 12th of November 2021. And based on my vast network and my reputation for getting things done, I reached out to Inspector Major General Shikongo from Nampol. I explained to him what the scenario was, and he was very gracious and helpful in offering advice. He immediately put me in touch with the Commissioner Pilot, but he put me in touch with them, and I put them in touch with the owner of Furaha Tours and Safaris, and we were just hoping to get a positive outcome out of this concerted effort to find this missing tourist. Unfortunately, as you may know, all the search and rescue efforts that included assistance from the Ministry of Environment and Tourism, ISAP, Nampol, through police reservationists on the ground, through Major General Shikongo's assistance and the pilot commissioner, including the private lodge owner, they really put their minds and heads together, and I'd like to say they worked well together to do their best to locate the missing Belgian tourist. Alas, when he was found, he had already transitioned to the next life. So that was a very unfortunate incident, and the lesson I believe we can learn from a destination is that we definitely need to work together with our police forces to ensure that when there is an emergency scenario in the future, rescue and operation times are cut down to a minimum, because we would have been organized. So you may be wondering, so what have we done as a tourism sector to mitigate this situation in the event that it comes up in the future, right? So what we did at the time, we sent out various emails. We engaged with our fellow colleagues within the sector and with Nampol. We asked still to lock in a meeting date for this year, where we said that it is quite critical that the tourism sector and Nampol come together, brainstorm, strategize, basically to try and figure out how we can implement a tourism search and rescue standard operating procedures, so that we can also help to preserve the integrity of destination Namibia. Imagine we are talking about tourism recovery and tourism revival, and we haven't. And imagine that we are not making concerted efforts to ensure that the guests that we're hoping to host here feel completely safe. So these are some of the things that should be working in the pipelines. We are yet to confirm this very critical engagement between the tourism sector and Nampol. But I'm sure you will be first to be notified when we get to that point. In conclusion, I would just like to encourage us all to remain cognizant in that mental health is a real scavenger within our global societies. And Namibia is not being spared from that onslaught. We have had our own share of local reports where we hear of young people, middle-aged people, sometimes even elderly people resorting to taking their lives because life is just too harsh, or we're not as compassionate with each other as we think we are, or as we would hope to be. Now, you may be wondering, why is a tourism professional speaking in this line? It's very simple. We are professionals at hospitality, and one of the tenets of hospitality is to be kind. Now, I'm not throwing any aspersions around that this unfortunate death of the Belgian tourist was due to mental health, or that it was due to a suicide. I am not a professional health official. I have not seen any autopsies. I am just intimating that for somebody to travel long distances, for their life to end in an unknown country, it's important wherever we are based to just remain kind to each other.
Tour guide Carlichia Pretorius came upon the body of Nicolas Remondiere at Sossusvlei.
I arrived with a family of 6 at Sesrim on the 11th of November, and 11th of November 2021. And when I went to go pay the park fees, the receptionist lady said to me that I should really take care of my guests because somebody went missing on the 11th. And I found it a little bit strange, but okay. So on the 12th of November, I went with my guests, the family of 6. We went to Sossusvlei, to Dead Vlei, and we climbed a bit of Big Daddy. And on my way down, because it was my last tour of the year, there's one living tree on Dead Vlei, and I usually go sit underneath there while my guests are taking their pictures and all these things. And I sat underneath the tree. I sat under the tree, and this tree is on the very far side of the Vlei, and not really anybody goes there. So, so it's like my little thing that I do. And I remember looking at the time because I need to get my guests back on time for lunch and all this at Sesrim. And I looked at the time, and it was about 9:20. And I started moving from there, but still on the far side. And there's many dead trees, very, very noir, very black. And I thought it was just a branch, but then I came closer and I saw a shoe. And I thought he was resting. And I said, Monsieur, sir, are you okay? And then realized and remembered, obviously, of this man that went missing. And I walked around and obviously saw that he is not well. In fact, he's completely dead. The helicopter was circling, and I had a yellow scarf, and I was trying to wave them down, but they didn't see me. There's absolutely no way that anybody would have found him. Honestly, I think that. And so I just started running. I don't know what my plan was. I was just looking for some help somewhere. And I ran over the Vlei and realized at some point, like, what am I actually doing? Because it was really, really hot. And the day before, on the 11th, was extreme heat. Yeah. So, and so I started running over the Vlei. I gave my guests the car key because it was so hot, and I thought maybe they need to, and obviously I didn't expect this to happen. And obviously I don't have a walkie-talkie or anything, so I just started running over the Vlei, over the little hill, maybe to find a ranger or anybody of these transfer people who drive from the 2x2 to the 4x4 parking. And just as I peaked the hill, 3 police officers. It was the first time in my life that I was so excited to see, or happy to see, a police officer. And and so I took them because they couldn't even see what I showed them, because I was like this, I couldn't really point anyway. And I had to take them there. They were absolutely very, very, very cool. They just like relaxed me so much. It's the first time I found a dead body, or a dead person, because the body is most no. Okay, yeah. So a dead person, and it was quite traumatizing. But obviously, I had to stick to my guns and still keep on with my tour. As I understand, it was those people's 4th day on a tour, and they had like a 19-day tour, so they had to continue with that trauma. So basically, by that time, when I arrived with the police officers at Nicolas, actually, they said Nicolas ons het jou uiteindelik gevind, and because he was missing for about 24 hours, so his body was still in a good condition, The helicopter came down, but they couldn't put the body in the helicopter because this is very gory. The fluid started coming out, so they had to get a cruiser over the dunes onto the Vlei to be able to put the body there. But obviously I left by that time because I needed to get on with my stuff that I was busy doing. And so basically the story was that he was tired while walking on to the dune, and he was suggested to just go down there and go wait somewhere. So it's really a little bit like, I don't really know what happened there, because I was waiting for the autopsy, and when the autopsy came through, it was said that he had severe liver disease. So, and also he didn't have any family. So what transpired there, I'm not really sure. But I definitely think that I was called there to go find him, because it's impossible. There would have been no way that they would have found him. And the helicopter was circling all morning, and they were looking for 24 hours. So, yeah, and you wouldn't have seen him because he was wearing black clothes, and he was severely burned. So I had an incident that morning when I found him, also with one of my guests. She was scared of heights, and her blood level dropped severely. And I wanted to go down with her, but then her boyfriend said he will, and I gave both an orange for when they get down there. So, what it actually taught me is how important the job is as a guide, because it's big people, it's adults and all this, but our conditions, our weather conditions and all these things, so you have to keep that in mind as well. And I just realized how important it is to actually be a guide, because I saw the guide of this guy afterwards, and he was devastated, So whatever he feels or thinks he did wrong or whatever, it just taught us all a lesson to be a little bit more vigilant when it comes. You've got other people's lives in your hands as your own, but so it's quite an intense job at the end of the day, especially after seeing that, So I'm just a rookie. I've only been been guiding for about 6 years. Yeah, it's definitely something that guides should consider. Don't just let your people just walk off, go with them, unless we don't know what that guy's intention was at the end of the day.